Welcome back, everybody. Got another interview. It's going to be the second interview with RCC and Nothing Meant for Legal Purposes. This is all history from years ago. We're not encouraging anybody to do anything wrong, but it's important for the history to be preserved, and that's one of the reasons why we do all this. So, how you doing, Lewis?
Oh, I'm doing great. How you doing today?
Good, good. Thanks for doing this again, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me. I enjoyed our time.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Let's get into about raising pups. Maintaining them. Some of the important things that you felt were, always had to be kind of standard. You know.
Yeah. For me, it's a couple things I've always done, raising pups and how I pick mine. But for majority, once I left New York and came to Carolina, I just kept a whole litter of puppies. And there was a couple things I always done with my pups. I tried to keep them in the pen for a while after I would raise them in the house and just turn them out during the day and kind of try to hand raise most of them. But what I would do is one thing that I noticed that worked for me. Usually, when you have a litter of pups, say outside in the pen or something like that, you're always going to have a dominant pup. So every time I get the chance, when I notice one pup is really the dominant one, I would always take him out of the pen and let the next dog grow to be the dominant one, and so forth and so on, and do that until I got down to the last pup. And then usually the last pup that was the least dominant of all of ones would be the one I really probably would bring in the house and keep them in the house a little longer and ride them with me and hand raise them in that way. But
Right.
I noticed that if you have one dominant pup in the litter in the beginning and you take him out, then another one becomes a dominant pup. So I thought that just kind of always kept them growing and growing and growing to be dominant.
Very interesting. Now,
Yeah.
if you leave that dominant one, is it? Do you think that he's going to punk the other ones out, and then the other one is going to stunt their development, or or
Well,
what?
it can in a sense, but I have seen it. That's why I usually will keep taking the dominant one out, so it doesn't it allows the other ones to the one behind him to become a dominant and so forth and so on.
Right.
But what I have realized is, for me, is just when you have the little pup and he's like the runt and he's probably the less dominant one out of the bunch. He's kind of like born with the game gene just because he's been really struggling for everything he's got the whole along the way. Now, how you develop the dogs according to their personality and how you raise them, that plays a really large part. You know, things it's just like I watched an interesting video the other day. It was just a little short thing, and it talked about Tiger Woods and his dad, and how he would be out to hit a ball, and next thing his dad will do is drop a whole bunch of golf balls or throw some of the golf clubs out there, and just basically teaching him to be focused, because really you're raising these dogs just like you raise your children, is to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. If that makes any sense.
Yes, sir. Sure does.
So to do that, you have to constantly put them in situations where they are uncomfortable until they build up a tolerance and understanding that adversity and being uncomfortable is a part of life and don't get deterred from it. So, for example, you're taking a pup and you're starting him, like, say, like for me, when they're like in like the cage in my house, I might have a little sock or a little rag or rope hanging there. For me, that's really starting them. That's my beginning of my schooling for them, because now that's basically got like a spring pole or flirt pole. So really, I can eventually now, they've got used to getting on this thing. Now I can eventually put that on a spring pole or a flirt pole and get them chasing it around. And you're really at this point, you're kind of building a little confidence with them because you want to chase it until they're getting fatigued, but not to the point they lose interest. When they start to lose interest, you can let them get it to regain their interest. But after longer and longer of doing these things, it becomes harder and harder for them to get it. So they're being uncomfortable and they're mentally, you're teaching them that, okay, if I just keep trying hard enough, I'll be able to get this thing. And eventually, like with most dogs, there's so much to them that eventually won't even be able to get to keep the flirt pole or something like that from them.
Right.
But it's gradually, always moving the finish line. Not moving it so far that they get discouraged because they believe they can never get to the finish line. But your overall goal is to get them to the point that no matter what happens, they believe they can always win. They can always get to the finish line. So it's just constantly moving the finish line and moving it away, just pushing them to go further and further and further without pushing them to the point that they don't think that they give up.
Right.
And then once you push them further enough, there's nothing you can do to make them give up because you pretty much trick them to believe that their confidence that they're always going to win. Eventually, they're going to wear you down and always win.
Right. I called that mental conditioning. That's what
Definitely.
I called it back in the day, and I agree. And one of the things I tell people or explain to them is, during a workout or exercise, whatever it is, I don't want my dog to stop. I don't want him to quit. I don't want to teach him that he can't do what he wants to do, And it's kind of that same thing you're talking about. You move the goalposts, but you always make it where they can get to it. Now it's going to be a little harder, a little rougher, maybe take a little longer, but I don't want to discourage them from that, And talking about the pups, that runt, I think you're right, because I used to do the same thing with mine. I would keep the whole litter if I could, and if it was my blood, what I consider my family of dogs, I didn't let any of those out. Maybe if it was a cross dog or something like that, I would. And with that run, I think it does exactly what you say. They struggle their whole life, and if it's if you raise them properly, they become accustomed to that struggle, and it makes them a better dog, along with the bonding with you, and they spend more time with you because he's a runt, and like you said, you do more things with them.
Oh yeah, some of the best dogs I've had, I bottle fed.
Right.
Right. They were the runt. Their mom milk went bad. She wouldn't raise pups. Some of the best ones were dogs I bottle fed. It's even like a lot of people don't know my champion Ivan dog. He was the runt, and as a pup, he had got some kind of way had got his stifle injured, so he only had the one good back leg.
Okay.
His one leg was a little shorter. It didn't bend at the joint, so he had the handicap stifle from being injured as a pup. And I got him when I was a teenager, working my first job at a pet shop. I $50 a week here, $25 a week here until I pay for him.
Right.
Not even noticing that he had the leg. I'm just so excited to have a dog. To be able to get this dog here.
Gotcha.
But he was such a exceptional dog. You wouldn't even notice, and he adapted to having that leg to the point that he could take the good leg step forward, right? And the way his leg was injured, he locked that leg in a position. Once he locked that leg, you couldn't push him back.
Gotcha. He adjusted to that handicap.
He adjusted to that,
Yeah.
And he was one of those rare dogs, exceptionally hard biting dog. But one of the things I noticed about him is I learned one of the most things you want to have in your dog, for me at least, I need a dog with a sense of urgency. And what I mean by having a sense of urgency is being mindful in the situation that you are in at all times and understanding the situation you're in and wanting to finish it.
Gotcha.
You know, a lot of times you're exhausted, you're tired, you're all these things, but you have to be able to seize that opportunity.
Right.
To go ahead and get the victory or to move to the next level.
Right.
Or sometimes you're not feeling good because you see a lot of people don't really understand. You know, I'll give you something that people will understand a little more. You see sense of urgency. You see Michael Jordan, his flu game, the famous game. He understood that I was sick, and these are the things that's going on. But he was able to understand that where he was at and be mindful of that situation and push through it to become great, to have one of his greatest showings ever. And you really need that in your animal.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, in a fast lane animal. Some people, for me, when I was competing, when I was doing dogs, you know, some people just want to compete, and that's fine. I want to win. And I don't just want to win. I want to win in devastating fashion.
Convincingly.
Where you see when it's all done, you're like, whoa, I just witnessed something so great that you're going to think it's a damn fluke.
Right. You wanted to make that the norm.
Oh, yeah. You want to make them perform, and you want to, you know, I believe in this, right? Any living thing, with exception of a really, really small percent, it's only so much you can take. So if you're so dominant and so impressive in something, one or two things going to happen. The handler is going to be like, "Oh, that's enough," or your opponent going to be like, "That's enough."
Right.
You know, that rare percent will take all of that, and that's where you see your dead game dogs.
But it is rare, like you said, very rare.
Yeah. Very, very rare. Yeah. And like I tell a guy, hey, a dead game dog ain't good to nobody.
Yeah,
but he's
true.
Dead.
That's it.
You know, there's levels of those things, but taking dogs to those levels starts with raising them as pups, you know?
I agree.
Being able to throw them in your car and take them off for a ride, run them behind your bike, put them in situations where they're uncomfortable, constantly where there's loud music, fireworks. All these things are, you know, schooling your dog to be successful, whether it be in the show ring, a successful pet, or anything. Just those socializing things, those confidence building things, all those things come in play to ultimately being successful in whatever you're going to do with your animals. Right. If you're not willing to really put the time and the work and do those little things, you can't expect to have a great outcome. Once in a while, you'll just get a great dog that doesn't need all that. But all the rest of them pretty much fall far and few in between.
Very true. Very true. I've said this. I'll say it again here, just for my own, you know, YouTube channel. But if you think about it, the time spent in schooling and competition with the dog compared to their whole life, let's say they live 10 or 15 years old, that time is short. It's only a few hours at the most. If you take all the schooling, all the competition, wins, loses, whatever it is, for any particular dog, In the extreme, it might be 10 hours out of their whole life. On the lesser side, it might be only a couple of hours. If you look at it like that, it gives you a perspective of, what is actually going on with the dog. But as you mentioned, that schooling, that raising, influences, taking them here, there, doing all that, that's pretty much the rest of their life. Leading up to an adult, that's the schooling part. That's why it starts when they're young. And then during their uh, competition life, you have the keeps and all that. It's still not that much time, but you need all that other stuff involved to get them to that point where they're good enough for competition, and how to condition, and they have to do the work and all that. So I've kind of said, like, during the time that they're doing what they're bred for, that's one thing.
Oh,
But the other time when they're not, they're just a regular dog.
yeah,
Now,
like
albeit they're a high level dog, they're like a thoroughbred horse, so it's not a regular dog, but they're just a dog. And that's where all that other
definitely.
stuff you're talking about comes in.
So for me, that this was a really important thing. It's like, for example, like my Ivan dog, probably be his three matches. One went 22 minutes, the other both went 17 minutes, and he probably had about equal amount time of schooling also.
Right.
But the great thing about me raising him and raising a lot of dogs that I have children. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So now, for me, say I got a dog that I'm coaching soccer or something like that, right?
Right.
I'm literally taking this dog out here with these kids, and he's being the defender on the soccer ball, or he's the goalie.
Yeah.
So it allowed me to work him and have fun with my family and have fun with the dog, just because I raised him in the way that he was so socialized that I could take him to these places, and where other people think, hey, he just had playing fetch with his dog, or he's just doing this with the dog. My dog might be in keep at this time.
Right.
you, you know, but this is something I realize, and a lot of guys don't do this. Everybody's like, oh, I'm gonna hook this dog, and we got 8 week keep, right? Or 6 weeks. Really, 8 weeks or 6 weeks is not enough time to get a dog in the type of shape you need him. So for me, before I even ever hooked my dog, he had a really good foundation and he was in really good shape.
Right.
Probably 2 pounds over his weight. So now, when I get to that, I hook him and I'm 8 weeks out, because I might rest a week, maybe 2 weeks at the end. I'm pretty much cruising. I'm already, you can't, I tell guys this, right? You have no chance of winning like the Indy 500 if everybody stars on fresh tires and you got old tires.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So the key is really to, have the time invested in your animal, mentally, physically, all those things invested before you even hook them.
Yeah.
Having them in shape, and then you kind of most people get away from this. You have to journal. You need to make notes throughout your dog's career when you're schooling him to get his best weight, to know how he acts when he's this way, that way. All these different little nuances. Like a lot of people don't understand that. Just like people and dogs, we run on a cycle. I want to say they call it like biometrics.
Right.
So during this cycle of a month, you're in a recovery state, you're in a growth state, and then you're at a place where you are peaked, where everything is high. You're at your top of the top. So once you start journaling with your dog and get to know him and understand these things, you're going to want to hook him for his shows on those days when he's at his highest. But you don't know that unless you pay attention and you understand to his weight, what you're feeding him, and all those things, and you write down your days and all those things. So okay, this dog is this way during this time. So you're not going to push him hard during that time, because that's his cycle and you don't want to hurt him.
Well said, man. I mean, this is great stuff. Back in the day, even though I wasn't that experienced, but I realized I understood some things, and I realized, and I questioned certain things. One of them was a lot of these dog men, and they were experienced and been around a lot longer than me and done a lot more dogs than I did. They waited until the dog was 2 years old before they ever put any exercise on them. And not only that, they get them hooked up, and that's when they start teaching them how to use a mill or how to use a flirt pole or a cat mill. They have no prep. They didn't do anything with them. The dog's just sitting there. And I didn't do that. I did like you. I put a lot of time and work into them. That all that 1 year, 2 year before I hooked them up,
Yeah.
that was their
You
schooling,
know,
right? But these guys, I don't know. I never could get how someone would do that. You have an athlete and you don't do nothing to them or with them till they're grown, and then you expect them to go out there and compete at their best.
yeah. So for me, every dog I pretty much own, by the time he's about 10 months old, he can give me probably a good, 5 miles of road work and 5 miles of treadmill or swimming or whatever I need out of him.
Right.
And really, I probably could do more, but that's a good starting point for me. I could pretty much go out that day with a dog, 10-month-old dog, and flirt them for 15, 20 minutes, jump right on my bike, not walk them, cool them down, let them cool down. I never believe in, my thing is this, right? Is I don't want you to, I live where it's dark and it's lonely and uncomfortable. So I'm not really walking you to cool down. You're never going to be at that. You're going to cool down at a trot. You're going to recover not at a walking pace. You're going to recover at a light jog or something. So when my dogs are 10 months old, I could go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to go right from the treadmill, maybe 15 minutes, 3 miles to 5 miles. Go outside and flirt them for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then take them on my bike right from that, and maybe do 5 miles with him.
Right.
It might not be 5 miles of him all out. In the beginning, he's going to be a little tired, but he's still not going to be a walking tiger. I'm never going to let him walk to regain his composure.
Right.
Because one of the things that the mill maker said that I find true, your battle ain't with your opponent, it's with maximum stress.
Right.
So if I can be able to cool down at what is maybe a normal pace to you, theoretically, if you're one of the people that walks and has to walk to cool down and have to stop to take a breath, I'm always going to be a step ahead of you.
Right. I like the same thing. I wanted a fluid workout, no breaks in between, and they'll recoup on the fly. That's kind of how I said it. You're gonna,
yeah, definitely.
You hit a fast pace, you slow down a little bit, you pick it up, slow down that.
Spurts.
And they may be going balls out for a couple of minutes, and then they break stride and come down a little bit, recoup, and then build up, move at a faster pace again. And in my mind, I'm trying to emulate the show in the box. That's how they go. They come out hard, slow down a little bit, pick it up, whoever can do that for longer or better, however you want to look at it, that's usually going to be the victor.
Oh yeah. See, like one of the things I've done when, say for instance, if I'm starting the dog and we're in the keep, so I'm 30 seconds at a really fast pace, right?
Right.
And maybe a minute at a little slower pace. So now, as I'm increasing him, now I'm a minute at this fast pace and a minute at the slower trot. I'm increasing him. Now I'm maybe 2 minutes at this fast pace with a minute of recovery at the slower trot. So I keep going on with that thing until I get to the point where, I can really press you for 5 minutes and take a 30-second recovery and go back to pressing you for 5 minutes. Just pushing them to the point of that cusp, constantly pushing him to that cusp, but being tired to where you can recover, and teaching him how to pace himself
Right.
and recover while still moving.
Right.
So two things that does, you're teaching him, but because you're doing this, and when you get into whatever competition you're in, you can, okay, I can push him this long. Okay, I look at my clock, I need to back off a little bit. And it gets more intense, and the recovery time gets less and less. And once it gets to that certain point, then you say, okay, I'm going to add another set, and we're going to add another set of another 5 minutes or 10 minutes on the meal.
Right.
And increase them like that. And not only that, good thing I always thought you have an odometer, because that'll let you know if one day you're working your dog and in 15 minutes he's been doing 3 miles, right? And you're working him, then a couple of days he gets on there and those same 15 minutes he's doing 5 or 6 miles. That's letting you know you can increase him to another set.
Exactly.
But it's just one of them things is you learn as you go.
Yeah. It's almost the way I explained mine was you kind of did it the opposite, but it's the same result. So let's say I'm doing 5 miles. It takes them a certain amount of time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say I do 5 miles for 3 days in a row. So the first time I do the 5 miles, they run it at a certain pace. And the second day, a certain pace. By the third day, I'm running the same 5 miles, but they're doing it in a shorter amount of time.
Exactly.
Which tells me that they've increased their conditioning. That's how I kind of knew where I was at in my program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things, man, I'm going to tell you, this was a really big game changer for me. I go out in late 90s, I want to say maybe around 98 or something, to the St. Thomas. I stay with E.T. Kennels out there. So I learned from him is about the blood count.
Right.
How to manipulate the blood, how to build the blood, all these things, to the point that when I got home and I was building the blood and doing that so good, my vet was like, I don't understand how the hell you're doing this. But what I did is when I got back from there, I bought a centrifuge so I could always do my own blood work.
And learned how to use it, right.
I got a centrifuge. I learned how to use it, learned how to control your platelet count, your red blood count, all these, your white blood count, what are the key markers to look for, all these things. And that really put me head above a lot of people that weren't up on that.
Right.
And then have the understanding of it, of the science of how the body works. And it also is an indicator to let you know where your dog is at. Whether you need to pay a forfeit or you can go on with them, or is your blood a little high and you maybe need to thin it out to give them, maybe you need to give them a little aspirin, or all those things, because people don't really understand. You take something like a really high blood count, for example. Say your blood is in the 50s. Now, your dog, the blood is really thick, and if you dry him out in Dex, so now you take something like a Dex, what is like a corticosteroid. Right. So what it basically does, it constricts the blood vessels. They're going to pee out a lot of water. But now you've got this really high blood count, and you've restricted the vessels. So now where the blood is pumping through the veins is smaller. So now, even though you have a really good oxygen in your blood, the blood is thicker, the vein is smaller. So now the heart is working harder to pump that blood to the brain, to the extremities. So without giving them something now to thin the blood a little bit, you're going to really run hot and not be able to recover. You could even possibly have a stroke. So it's just understanding the science of the dog and the blood and all those different things.
And it could be something as simple as giving them a baby aspirin, right?
Yep, simple as giving them a baby aspirin, a quarter of an aspirin, anything,
Right. Yeah.
But learning to manipulate the blood and learning, you know, some dogs, different strains of dogs and different, some dogs are normally carry a higher blood count naturally, while some others may be a little lower or this and that. So it all is determined by your dog, your climate, the weather, how many feet above sea level you are, or what your diet is going to be, what your blood count is. All those things come into play.
And you're using all that information uh, as it relates to how your dog's working, how he feels, how he's emptying out, and what his urine looks like, his stool, and recovery, all that stuff. It's all. I think that's what makes a good dog man or a good conditioner is understanding all these factors and how to make everything come together so that you have an athlete that's in top shape.
Definitely. Like one of the things I've always done too, I would go buy those little urine strips, right?
Right.
So at least once a week, every 10 days or something, I get me a little pan, like a pie pan or something, and I will catch the urine. And now I'm putting that little strip in there and looking at it and telling, okay, if this is going on, is this going on, what his protein in his urine is. All these different things are indicators of letting you know where your body's pH is at.
There you go. That's what I was going to ask. Is it a acid test or a pH test or a protein test or it's a
Yeah, it's
pH
gonna,
test?
it has a little different things that those little strips, they'll have like 5 or 6. I hadn't seen one in a while. Like I said,
Right.
I haven't really done anything in a while, but different strips for different things. So most of the time when you get those little, you get a container and it has maybe 50 or 100 of those strips in there, there will have a little chart on the side of it.
Oh, wow.
So once you put the urine, little strip in the urine, you can put it to this chart and it's going to tell you, okay, this is where you're at. This is where you're at. Then understanding the dog and where it should be to compare, okay, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. But a lot of that is trial and error. But a big part of it always has been, one of the big things for me is I learned early on that to be successful, you got to put your ego and your pride aside and be willing, open to learn.
Yes, sir. I
To
think
be
that's the hard.
successful really in anything in life.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things, especially for men, I would say, because of our masculinity or whatever you want to call it. It's hard to do that, but you would be better off if you could learn to put all that pride and ego aside and be open to learning and listening. I told people there were times where people would criticize me. I hated it. You want to rip their head off, or you argue or call them name, whatever it is. But I learned over time that maybe they're giving me some information that I can use. Maybe if I listen, even if I don't like to hear it, there might be something in there. If not, then okay, no harm, no foul. But there might be something that they're telling me that's right. And it's a hard thing to do sometimes, but you'd be well off just
You,
have that in your mind. Always trying to learn
you,
something.
exactly. You know what I realized too, right?
Mm.
Most people that don't give a fuck about you, excuse my language,
Yeah.
they're not going to tell you when you're screwing up
No, they're not.
because they're going to want you to keep screwing up.
Right. Or if they do tell you, they're telling you something to screw you up. They're telling you something
Exactly.
wrong but on purpose.
So sometimes we get caught up on the delivery instead of the message.
Right.
Because everybody's not really great communicators. So you have a friend and he is have a really rough way of communicating with you. But at the end of the day, he's your friend and he only wants your best, as opposed to a guy that hangs around you that's not really your friend and that's a yes man. He's not going to tell you, hey, man, hey, let's go, man. You're not cheating on your wife. We got to get the hell out of here, man. Don't waste your time. That chick is trouble.
Right.
He's going to be sitting there and tell you to let you go on and maybe encourage you to do the wrong thing.
That's right.
So it's, I kind of grew up in the dogs and I learned a lot. So when I think of my kennel, it's Rochester Combine because it took a combination of a lot of people for me to be successful. People that you maybe never even heard of, a lot of people never heard of, all play little parts. And no one part is bigger than the most important part. It's just like I could have the best race car in the world. If my pit crew sucks, I'm not gonna win.
Right.
If if my if my car is great, everything's great, but my driver sucks, I'm not gonna win. If this guy didn't check the oil, I'm not gonna win. If down to this guy that just changes, make sure he put enough layers on my visors. So one part or one person is no more important than the other person. That's a part of being a team.
Right.
And then really, to achieve greatness, you got to have a good team. Most of us, and what we do, our team is really mostly our family, our wives, all those type of things. It's really hard to be successful if you have a woman in your life, a family in your life that don't support your dream, that they're not going to go out there when you're out of town and feed and water the dogs, or on a really hot day, have enough caring about you and the animals to go out and make sure that they got their water is, they got cool water, they got shade, all those things. So it really takes a team effort to be successful. Like for me, it is really crazy. A guy named Fonz, he's been, I think he has a ship dog right now. I've been breeding him out a lot.
Right.
Mostly all my dogs came from dogs he had when he was younger.
Okay.
That he didn't, he mishandled. We were younger then. He's a little older than me, but didn't have the dog IQ that we have now.
Right.
So the dogs like the Red Baron dog, which they call Jake, that ended up losing to, I want to say Mystic. The Patrick Shaba dog that he later on would sell. A lot of some of my dogs came from some of his strains that he got from Pat and he brought there. He took the Shaba dog with a friend of mine that when he sent them, owed them a stud fee. And that's how Rolex and all those dogs came along, and the Challenger dog and some of these dogs in my pedigree.
Wow.
But like, for example, you take the Red Baron dog you had, 2-time winner. Marshall Beasley and them had done the dog. Him and Bird had helped LaFons with the dog. He did the dog. They won with him twice. They get ready to go to Mystic. They're telling him, hey, he just went a long time. He needs some time off. He rehooked the dog right then. Dog underweight. Didn't really give the dog a fair shot.
By not
ego,
giving
and being
him
young.
Was that by not giving him enough time between shows
Enough time between shows
to recoup, heal?
and not having the knowledge, the really conditioning knowledge at the time.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. So when he ended up losing to Mystic in an hour and like 40 or something, everybody just threw him away. But shoot, we had a litter off of him that was 100% litter. Every dog in the litter was exceptional.
Right.
But there's levels of gameness. You know what I mean? But
yes,
the big thing is too, what level are you going to perform at where you're not 100% also? But this is the same dog now, 40, 41-pound dog that I've seen go with Paz Jr., 47, 48-pound dog for, 30 minutes. That went with Champion Paz Jr. that went like 30 or 40 minutes, where none of Paz Jr.'s matches even lasted 40 minutes. They're all 36 minutes, barely, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So it's all about perspective.
Right. It's almost like
to him and me being at the right place at the right time.
Right. It's almost like they expect the dog to perform at 100%, even though they know in their own heart, in their own mind, he's not at 100%.
Exactly.
They expect him to repeat the previous performance and show the same heart or ability or whatever, knowing he's off.
Exactly.
That's just that
And the
just
first thing people want to do, oh, I'm gonna get rid of this dog. They're gonna blame it on the dog, but nobody wants to look in the mirror
it's usually their
and
fault.
hold themselves accountable.
Right. Yeah. There's that ego again getting in the way.
Ego and pride.
Yeah.
You feel now your dog lost in front of all these guys.
It's
Your pride is
embarrassing.
hurt. all these things. The
Yeah.
good thing I noticed for me, right? Before I react, sometimes when situations arise like that, take a deep breath and take 10 seconds before you react, before you respond. That's the world of difference between making a bad mistake sometimes, making a wrong choice or making a right choice.
No, you're right. I learned that myself, even on, let's say, Facebook. In the past, I would write something and send it out on emotion. Maybe a little rough, maybe a little negative, whatever. And what I learned to do is write out what I'm going to write out and then look at it, read over it, and wait. Like you said, take some time, look at it. I may change some of the wording. I may erase the whole thing and not even send it. Try not to let
you know what I was going to tell you, right? The funny thing about that, when you said that, I was thinking this in my mind. When you do that, half the time, it doesn't even deserve a response.
Right.
Not from you.
Right.
You just got to sometimes say, this dude's a fucking idiot. I'm not responding to this.
I do that a lot. Believe me, Louis, I do that a lot. Too. I don't even answer. I won't even answer them back.
Especially in today and age. Yeah. Everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah.
Based on something they know nothing about.
Right.
On like I hate to be like this, but everybody is in their damn feelings.
Yeah.
Their opinion is based on their feeling, never facts.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a really big thing. But without LaFon's, one of my friends that I've known a long time, and he had one the greatest dog of probably in the 90s was Malik with the Grand Champion IBM dog.
Oh yeah.
Amazing dog. People don't really realize how rare it is to see a dog that size doesn't matter. A lot of people don't know that IBM was a 44, 45 pound dog. And he can beat all these 1-6 matches. Mostly at 47, 48. He even want to see, he curled out the Nico dog at 51 pounds.
Wow.
You know what I mean? This is a 44-pound dog.
Right.
More important, this is a 44-pound dog with a novice that was really his first dog, was really just learning about dogs. So his first dog, and he won in 6 shows with him. And every time, like I said, I seen him beat the Willie dog, all these dogs he beat, Grizzly, all these dogs. He's a 44, 45-pound dog going up against 47, 48, 46, 50-pounders and beat them all.
That type of dog will spoil you, man.
Oh, man. You'll spend your whole life searching for him.
Yeah, searching for
But
another
the thing
one
was
like
with him, everybody, 2 things. Malik had an unbelievable bond with this dog, and this dog was super intelligent. Walk off the leash, all these things that you couldn't even ask for a dog. Wouldn't mess with a cat, wouldn't do anything. You could train him to do anything.
Right.
But it was the right dog for him at the right time.
Yes, sir. It happens once in a lifetime. Dogs like that. There's been a few, not many, maybe a handful throughout the whole history of the breed. Imagine that they could do that.
Yeah.
Go up and down and weight like that. And be that trainable, bond that way with the person. Something to be admired, man.
Oh yeah, and he had a better pedigree to back it up. But
you remember how was he bred? I remember the dog, but I don't remember his breeding.
You just don't see those dogs too often.
Right.
The Chavez dog that Castro had, that the same guy that had the Paz Junior dog, he was like that.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter what weight, size, or anything. He's I want to say Homer, bred to Panda.
Okay.
2-time winner. when we did him his last time, I'll give you a really good story here. When his last time going out, we had hooked him on the same card with Paz Jr. when he beat the Rocco dog when he was supposed to go on the Flash.
Okay.
Through the keep, he gets a kidney stone, you know?
Oh, wow.
So we ended up paying the forfeit, whatever. Later on, my buddy, he rehooks him at 34 pounds. Marshall Beasley had conditioned him and done him the first time and won with him. But now this dog is, he's like 7 years old, man. He's blind. He had a kidney stone operation. And my friend, he said, oh, he's been working the dog. So he drops this dog off to me. And I'm young at the time, maybe about 18 years old or so. 3 weeks out of the show, and I could tell he hadn't put no work into the dog. So my thinking was, and he hooked him at 34.
Right.
So this was my thought process was being young. Now I probably would have told him just to pay the forfeit. you know what I mean?
Right.
But being young, this is my process was. He's not a 40-pound dog. He's a 32-pound. So to bring him at 34 pounds, I'm basically pushing 4 pounds because the 2 pounds the other dog is bigger, and the 2 pounds I'm carrying on him.
Exactly.
So I did the best I could do with him in 3 weeks, and we ended up winning with him in like 40 minutes or something. But he was so blind and everything, he couldn't see shit. He walked into stuff.
Yeah.
He's like 7, 8 years old maybe at this time.
Yeah.
And now he's on a 34 pounder that done won in over 2 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we have a friend, she's passed away too. What we did is, it's funny. He loved this woman. She stood behind the other dog in the corner.
Oh, there you go.
You know what I mean?
You can smell her, yeah, or hear her, yeah.
Hey, and when it was his turn to scratch, because he can't see or anything, she's right over there. Hey, Chavez.
Come here, boy.
It's just funny though.
Hey, that it's not illegal. That's within the, that has, why not? Some of my dogs in fact, I was talking to my wife yesterday. About this. Some of my dogs listen to her better than they did to me. And I'm the one feeding them and conditioning them and all that stuff. We love each other like that, but she spent more time with them and was more motherly to them, so they listened to her more than they would
nurturing.
Yeah, nurturing. Yeah.
The funny thing is too, why I say too it takes a team, because certain kennels, you get familiar with them, right?
Right.
So you would do me personally, I'll prepare myself or my guys or whoever. I'm doing like a scouting report, like an NFL team.
Right.
This dude's a hothead. Your job is just to talk shit and get on his damn nerves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I believe I can break the bond between handler and dog, I pretty much can beat you anyway. So just having a good corner man, having guys that are going to see things you don't, getting those guys that they got all this proud and machismo to get into a talking thing, whatever, because they'll try to talk shit to you as a handler.
Right.
So sometimes you need your friend on the outside to engage their shit talking. Yep. While you and your dog stay focused.
Right. It throws them off. They might miss a handle.
Oh yeah.
They ain't paying
attention. And that's part of it.
Yeah, they ain't paying, they ain't paying attention.
Knowing, hey, he's gonna come out and push.
Yeah.
We know this. So we need to just weather this storm for 20 minutes.
Right.
And then take over. So we're not gonna push with him and try to go blow for blow with him. We're gonna be calm and collected. Keep our dog calm and collected. We're not going to go punch. We're not going to go in here and slug with Mike Tyson. We're going to put a jab on him and stay away from him.
Let him wear down a little bit.
Yeah, so, it's just a lot of little different things,
There's
man.
a lot of psychology to it involved, You have to You have to recognize it, and that's part of the fight plan, if you want to put it.
Oh yeah, but I think really being able to instill in those plans goes back to, you know, how you raise your dog and raising the right dog.
Right. Yes,
You
sir.
know, and in today's time, we're at a different time than me and you grew up in.
Yes,
The
sir.
price of dog food is cheaper. These laws are different. So for a person to do something like a Tom Gardner or a Floyd Boudreaux or Pat Patrick or any of these guys, or even Victor, it's almost impossible unless you're rich. And with the laws here in America, it's almost impossible because really to develop a line of dogs, people don't realize this. You're going to have raise and keep probably 100, 200 dogs at one point to develop a line and get the gene pool and breed the dogs you want to breed. Unless you got guys that are really trusted, but more dogs have ended really good friendships more than anything else.
True. Over a dog.
So over dogs. So you think to yourself, right? In order to raise a whole line of consistent animals, you're probably going to need 2 or 3 year generations of them dogs at your place at one time. Not to mention starting off with solid animals to begin with.
Right.
But you're going to have to basically keep litters, raise litters off those litters to adulthood to follow and see what dogs are passing on, what genes, what do you like for and what are you looking for, and which dogs are throwing consistently to the things you are. And after doing that for generation to generation, you have a type of dog that you're looking for, and you're keeping those dogs that throw those particular traits that you're looking for. But right now, with you figure a bag of dog food, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $80, that's almost impossible unless you got unlimited money and unlimited time
Not
and
to
space.
Right. Not to mention having that many dogs, having even 20 or 30 dogs, it's a red flag for a lot of people. Yeah, it's difficult to even keep that many, much less 50 or 100.
Oh yeah,
You're on somebody's
I
radar. You know.
exactly. I thought about my last yard I had. I figured it out. It was costing me about 40 grand a year, and that didn't include my personal time. That didn't include, if God forsake, I got to spend a couple thousand at the vet. These other people I'm paying, all that. That's a lot of cash. That's more than most people make.
That's true. That's true. And like you said, you can't take your own labor into account. You couldn't give yourself a hourly rate. That's just
Yeah.
it takes a lot. It's a lot of money. Everything's more expensive, and not to mention all the time you're talking, time consuming, all that. It's
And
very
then weighing
very
the time that you're
difficult.
if you got children and family and other obligations,
Right. Right.
it takes a lot. So it really takes a team.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it. And the team's gonna expect something for it. It's like my family. You know, they were involved all the way around, but they
Yeah.
had to see some benefit from it also.
Oh,
I
definitely.
I had to win, and they had we go to Disneyland or we go to the coast, or they want to get play an instrument or whatever it is, and that costs money. So it's
Definitely.
reciprocal. You have to give back. If you're just the tight ass where you're a heavy ruler and you neglect your family and all that stuff, at some point you may not have a family. They're not going to stick around forever.
Oh, that's definitely it, because I remember when I was younger and I was broker and wide open, man. Me and my wife, man, you could tell when it was time to, hey, when it was match time, shit, the phone might be off, everything, because we're all in.
Right.
We're 20 years old, we're all in. We got 3 kids at the time. You know, everything we got is all for that. We're all in.
Right.
Losing it's not an option.
Right. Yeah.
But those were, and it's the crazy thing about it too, right? We might have been all in, and all we had was $1,000, but that $1,000 was like $100,000 at the time.
That's true. That's true.
So
because
it's just funny how things change and everything.
You know, when I was in the 70s, my parents bought a ranch. Just an example. Early 70s, they bought a ranch, 2.5 acres, 1,300 square foot or 1,400 square foot home for $15,000. That was a lot of money. And the house was probably 20 years old. $15,000 for 2.5 acres with a 1,300 square foot house. That was, and my parents, both of them worked. They made good money for their jobs and all that. But that was a lot of money. So even in your and my time, $1,000, that was a lot of money.
Yeah. I saw a thing the other day, and they said, and like our parents, like what you're talking about, that a person making 30 grand a year was equivalent to somebody making $200,000 right now.
Right now. Right now.
Yeah. And you could, like you said, man, shoot, for, 2 or 3 grand, you could buy a brand new car back then.
Yep. $1,000 for me at that time, my house payment was around $400.
Oh yeah.
So it was
exactly
2.5 months of house payment I could make with that 2 grand, with that $1,000. A lot of money, man.
And pay probably your other bills and everything.
I'd be set for a couple months. I'd be set.
Yeah.
Because
your mortgage, your electricity, your water bill, trash, all that stuff.
All that. Yeah.
And I might have a little bit left over to take the wife out.
Yeah, gotta go. Like I said, we go to Disneyland. At that time, if we went to Disneyland for a weekend, it would cost us as 4 people, my wife and 2 kids at the time. Later it was 3 kids. But 2 kids and my wife go for the weekend was about $500. Later on, and this is no shit, I'm just because of the way we are, whatever. Later on, when I take my grandkids, a couple of grandkids, me and my wife, a daughter, my daughter, and like that, I ain't shitting you, $3 grand for a weekend at Disneyland.
Yeah.
And we only go on one day to Disneyland. We go the night before, we stay over, go to Disneyland, stay over the next night till Sunday, and come home.
I remember
that's what it costs.
Gabe dog.
That's
he was such a good dog,
Yeah.
And just so well rounded. Is that man, I always just tell my daughters, because they live with me, and I would tell them, hey, I was single dad at the time. Hey, no faking out like you're sick. Go to school. Do what you got to do. For a while when I was hurt, they were babies, but they were like taking care of me.
Yeah.
So they're always really mature.
Right.
Because I'm my older daughter's making the younger daughter peanut butter sandwiches. I'm basically peeing in the bottle. So we have this relationship. So I would tell them, hey, don't miss any school. If you don't, we always have really good understanding on our relationship. So when something comes up, if I will say, hey, let's go do this, you're like, oh, I missed too many days of school because I was pretending I was sick and all this stuff. So they're good at that. But my Gabe dog, he was such a great dog, man. I remember I did him. Then everything worked out good. We go right on to the right then on Orlando. We just take the dog and the whole 9 right to the Hard Rock Cafe Resort in the middle of a week and just spend a week in Florida and do all that stuff and just had a good time,
That was Gabe.
But they were it was funny thing because they would feed the dogs when they got off the bus.
Right.
My body had been pretty much wore down and beat down. So that was one of their things.
Right.
And a few times, throughout the years, I was like, I'm getting rid of the dogs. And they were like, hell no, you're not. You know what's really crazy, man? And this is a little off subject, but not really. So my daughter, when she's younger, the neighbor has an Argentino dojo.
Right.
Doggo. It bites her in the face.
Oh, geez.
And I almost just missed her jugular by a millimeter.
Oh, shit.
She's a little kid then. So now, she's and me being a younger parent, I didn't understand it. She was crying a lot in her sleep and everything. So most people go through that dramatic thing with a dog or like scared of dogs. But now, we got 100 dogs. I credit her for being so strong because she got bit by the dog and used the dogs that we had in the yard to basically get through it herself.
Right.
And looking back now and understanding she's a grown woman now, that she had a little like some PTSD and everything.
Trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, she had some trauma for that. But the big thing for her was just getting back out in the dogs, and she really just grabbed the bull by the horns on that.
Man, kids are so resilient, man.
Yeah, and she tells me one day, Dad, that was a big thing in my life because it taught me to run towards my fears, not to be afraid of them, even if something afraid that makes me uncomfortable, to attack them.
Beautiful.
And it's just amazing, but it's funny because really the dog bit her and she had been around dogs her whole life and put her in a place that was uncomfortable for her. But then in the same sense, the pit bulls healed her.
Right.
And it was a crazy thing too, because I know dogs. So the people didn't even know what type of dog they had. Everybody thinking, oh, it was a pit bull. It was not a pit bull.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's just the life, man. It really, to tell you the truth, the dogs have really been a great part of my life. And I've met some pretty amazing and great people, man, throughout the years.
Yeah. Wow, that's a beautiful story. With that, the time's up, my friend. And, man, that'll just let us segue until the next time. We'll do this again and again, like some rocker say. We're going to do this again.
Yeah, I swear to.
There's so much to it, man.
So fast, man.
It goes so fast and very interesting. And once again, I appreciate you for doing this, my friend.
And, hey, we didn't even get to the questions.
No, we'll do that next time. I'll make a whole vid out of that. Don't worry, Brian. We haven't forgot you, brother. We'll do your questions next time. There are a set of questions.
Hey,
they're good.
And I'm sorry if I got off topic, man.
No, it's all good.
We just start talking and it just goes everywhere.
No, man. Kinda. Let me tell you, that's part of people love hearing that because a lot of times they can relate to the same thing, or believe it or not, it's a situation. They may be younger and have young kids, and it's a situation that's going to come up, and it helps them prepare for that. I can do this and that, and it's not, it's normal. We're not the only ones going through this. Other people have gone through this. So I think it's great. Anything we talk about that, and it always comes back to the dogs. Always, things have a way coming around, and I think it's great.
You know, to tell you the truth, man, and I'll let you go. It's the small things, man. The blessing is me being on one side of the country, you being on the other side of the country. Knowing of you and knowing your dogs. But the blessing is that you have created a platform that me and you can talk and share our experience and get to know each other on a level, man.
Yes, sir.
Not just the dogs, but beyond that. And that's just I'm just grateful for that.
Me too, brother. Me too.
To be building this relationship and this bond with you. just about life things and the dog things, but it wouldn't be possible without the dogs.
That's true. Much
So,
respect
you
for that.
know,
I agree, brother. It's something that 20, 30 years ago I never thought would happen, and the camaraderie and meeting a person like yourself and being able to come on this platform, I'm just grateful, and I thank you.
oh man, I'm grateful too, man.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon.
Yeah. You have a nice day, man.
All right. You take care. Bye.
Yeah.